Alrighty, guys, we're 5-1 in our last 6 NBA tier package bets on my website. And of course, that's good for 83% during that very short span. And I'll include a link for today's NBA tier package bet in the description section below. Before we go ahead and begin, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to our NBA video here today for Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022. As always, my name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to see which one of these free picks on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, you may want to think about signing up for my NBA tier package bet on my website. I'm once again 5-1 in my last 6 bets in that package. And just remember, guys, if you sign up for that membership here today, you're going to get access to that package for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, just because I like you, you're also going to get access to all the cheaper memberships on my site absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. Now, I currently have over 625 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. And with that, like we've been doing over the next couple of days, let's dive right into some shout-outs to our Brock Page Nation here. Shout out to Julius Matthew Padilla, who said, "I'm from the Philippines. Can I have a shout out for your next video? Very informative content." Of course, Julius, here is your shout out. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to my good friend Miss Denica, who said, "LMAO, Brock so funny." And last but not least, got to give a shout out to SNSJ Iniji, who said, "Where's the college basketball, Brock?" And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Sixers at the Hornets, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Charlotte's -5, totals 215. And even though the Sixers are all banged up right now, and they're in the second of a back-to-back, they did get the W against Brooklyn last night, and they actually led the entire game. Tobias Harris, he's scoring just over 15 points a game this year, and he makes just about 40% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, DeAnthony Melton, he's making over 40% of his three-point shots himself. So these guys do have some, scores on their team, even though their big guys are out right now. And the Sixers are facing a sputtering Charlotte team who lost 9 out of their last 10. Now, when it comes to shooting the basketball, this is one of the worst shooting teams in the game. And of course, I'm referring to Charlotte. These guys are currently in the bottom 3 in field goal percentage, and they're making just 31% of their 3 balls. Now, injury-wise, Ball and Martin are still out for Charlotte. Meanwhile, for the Sixers, Embiid, Maxey, and Harden are still out for them. Springer and Thibault are questionable. When it comes to the total, Philly saw 5 out of their last 8 stay under the line. Meanwhile, Charlotte saw unders versus the likes of Washington, Orlando, and Portland. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia +5, under 215. Next matchup, Blazers, Cavaliers, 7 o'clock East. Cleveland's the 8-point favorite at home, totals 215.5. Now, Cleveland won their last 3 straight, and they're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the game. They're actually in the top 3 in offensive three-point percentage, and they're led by Donovan Mitchell, who's making 41% of his shots from three-land. Now, Darius Garland, he's also making 44% of his three-pointers himself. They're facing a Portland team who lost their last 3 straight. And they're still going to work without Dame Lillard. Now, Josh Hart, he's also listed as questionable with an ankle injury. And even when Portland's mostly healthy, the Blazers are having a tough time getting on the scoreboard. They're actually in the bottom 10 in the league in points per contest. Now, injury-wise, once again, Hart is questionable. Dame is out. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Kevin Love, he's questionable. Karis LeVert is out for them. When it comes to the number, Cleveland went 60% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Portland saw 6 out of their last 10 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland -8, under 215.5. Next ball game, Timberwolves, Pacers, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Minnesota's -1.5, totals 236. And even though the T-Wolves are favored on the road here, they've been little threat shooting the long ball. These guys actually have one of the lowest three-point percentages in the Western Conference. When it comes to defensive play, the T-Wolves are having a tough time grabbing rebounds. They're actually in the bottom 10 in the league in defensive boards. Now they're facing an Indy squad who has little issue scoring points themselves. These guys are averaging 117 points a game. They're also led by Tyrese Halliburton, who's making just about 40% of his three-pointers. Now, Ty is also the team's leading scorer with over 20 points a game. And, of course, the youngster Benny Mathurin, he's drilling 42% of his shots from beyond the arc, really molding into a great role player. Now, injury-wise, Jackson and Nembhard are questionable for Indy. Daniel Tice is still out. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, McLaughlin and Anderson are questionable for them. When it comes to the total, 5 out of Minnesota's last 8 did get over the line. Meanwhile, the Pacers saw overs against the likes of Charlotte, Denver, and the Pelicans. I'm going to lean toward the Pacers plus 1.5, over 236. Next ball game, Mavs, Celtics, 7:30 p.m. East. Boston's the 4-point favorite at the Garden, totals 218. Now, the Celtics are coming fresh off a rare loss, and they may have to go to work without leading scorer Jason Tatum. He's currently listed as questionable with an ankle injury. Now, when it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Celtics really haven't been the best in that department. They're actually in the bottom 10 in both offensive and defensive rebounding. Now, they're facing a Dallas club who's one of the better defensive rebounding teams in the West. And speaking of defensive play, the Mavs are giving up fewer points a game than any other team in the association. Luka Doncic is averaging a league best 33.5 points a night, while Christian Wood's knocking down 43% of his shots from downtown. When it comes to the injury report, Dinwiddie and Kleba are questionable. Meanwhile, for Boston, once again, top scorer Jason Tatum is questionable with an ankle. Now, when it comes to the total, 4 out of Boston's last 5 did stay under the line. Meanwhile, Dallas went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Dallas plus 4, under 218. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Wizards at the Heat. 7:30 Eastern tip-off. Miami's -2, totals 210.5. And even though they're favored at home here, the Heat's going to work without Butler, Hero, and Robinson. They also may have to go to work without Strus, Highsmith, Dedmon, Haslam, and Gabe Vincent as well. All those guys listed as day-to-day. Now they're facing a Wizards team on the other side who actually got the W in 6 out of their last 7. And they play some really tough defense. These guys are actually in the top 5 in the league right now in guarding the field goal. When it comes to scoring points, well, Kristaps Porzingis, he's averaging 20 points a game along with 8 boards. Now, teammate Corey Kispert, he's drilling over 48% of his shots from long range as well. When it comes to the injury report, Bradley Beal is questionable for Washington. Morris and Hachimura are also day-to-day. When it comes to the total, Washington saw 6 out of their last 9 stay under the line. Meanwhile, on the other side, Miami saw their last 3 straight stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Washington plus 2, under 210.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Nets at the Raptors, 7:30 Eastern start time. Toronto's the 2-point favorite, totals 221. And even though the Raptors have some injuries right now, they still got the W in 2 out of their last 3. They played pretty tough defense. They're actually in the top 10 in the league in fewest points allowed. They're also one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the Eastern Conference right now. OG Anunoby, he's scoring over 18 points a night offensively, along with 6 boards. Meanwhile, Freddie VanVleet, he's scoring 18 points a game himself. Now, they're facing a Brooklyn squad who's in the second of a back-to-back here, so fatigue may be a factor. Man, I've been, sick for the last 3 weeks. Can't seem to shake it. It's very annoying. But anyway, Brooklyn, second of a back-to-back. Fatigue may be a factor. They also lost 3 out of their last 5. And they simply can't rebound the basketball. They're in the bottom 10 in defensive boards, bottom 5 in offensive boards as well. Here comes the injury report. Watanabe's questionable. Warren's still out. Meanwhile, for Toronto, Banton and Barnes are questionable. Porter and Siakam are still out for them. When it comes to the total, Toronto saw unders against the likes of Indy and Chicago. Meanwhile, Brooklyn's 60% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Toronto -2, under 221. Next matchup, Kings at the Hawks, 7:30 p.m. East. Atlanta's -5.5, totals 240. Now, both teams come into this game with a lot of positives. The Kings are currently leading the league in scoring. Meanwhile, Atlanta's doing a great job grabbing offensive boards. Now, defensively, both teams have seen their struggles. Atlanta's allowing 114 points a game, and Sacramento's nearly dead last in defensive field goal percentage. Now, total-wise, the Hawks saw unders recently against Cleveland, Boston, and Philadelphia. But Sacramento, on the other side, they saw a handful of overs over the past couple of weeks as well. So really kind of a tough, tricky game to handicap here. So if you want to see who I'm picking, if you want to see a winner here, this game's being featured as my $1.99 daily best play on my website. So if you want to see whether I'm making a play on the side or the total in this one, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my $1.99 daily best play on patreon.com/BrockPage. And just remember, guys, if you sign up for that package today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. Of course, moving on, we're going to take a look at the Nuggets at the Thunder. That'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver's the 3.5-point favorite on the road, totals 231. Now, Denver is currently the best three-point shooting team in the game right now. They're making over 40% of their three-pointers as a team. Michael Porter Jr., he's making over 42% of his three-point shots. And when it comes to the scoring, Nikola Jokic is averaging a team-best 21.5 points a night, along with nearly double-digit boards. Now, when it comes to rebounding the basketball, OKC's the worst defensive rebounding team in the game right now. They're also in the bottom 5 in points allowed per game. When it comes to the injury report, Pokusevski's out. Muscala's also out to mid-December as well. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side, Green and Watson are questionable for them. When it comes to the total, Denver saw overs recently against the likes of the Celtics, Pacers, and this very OKC team. Meanwhile, the Thunder saw their last 7 straight all get over the line. I'm going to lean toward Denver -3 over 231. Next ball game, Pelicans, Spurs, 8 o'clock East. The New Orleans Pelicans are -7, totals 230.5. Now, the Pels are doing a nice job of getting to the basket. They're scoring 117 points a night, and they're also in the top 5 in offensive field goal percentage. Zion Williamson, he's getting 22 points a game, and he's also shooting 56% from the field. Meanwhile, Brandon Ingram, he's also averaging 22 points a night. He's making over 48% of his three-pointers. Now, they're facing a San Antonio team who's the worst organization in the league right now in guarding the three ball. They're letting their opponents make 40% of their three-pointers against them. And no real surprise here, guys. The Spurs are also giving up more points a game than any other team in the association. Now, injury-wise, Richardson and Pirtle are questionable for San Antonio. Meanwhile, for the Pelicans, Murphy is doubtful for them. When it comes to the total, the Pels saw a contest with Chicago, Indiana, and Atlanta all get over the number. Meanwhile, San Antonio saw overs in 2 out of their last 4. Overs against the likes of Sacramento and Portland. I'm going to lean toward the Pelicans, -7 over 230.5. Next matchup, Bulls at the Bucks, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Milwaukee's the 6.5-point favorite at home. Totals 222 and a hook. Now, Milwaukee's one of the best defensive teams in the game right now. They're allowing only 106 points per contest, and they're in the top 3 in defending the field goal. When it comes to offensive production, Giannis averages 30 points a game, along with 11 rebounds. And, of course, Grayson Allen, he's been the deep ball threat. Allen's drilling nearly 42% of his three-pointers. Now, they're facing a Chicago team who does a terrible job guarding the three-pointer themselves. These guys are in the bottom 3 in defensive three-point percentage. Meanwhile, as a team, the Bulls took the loss in 6 out of their last 8. Now, total-wise, Chicago went 80% to the under in their last 10 outings. Meanwhile, Milwaukee saw 7 out of their last 10 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Bucks, minus 6.5, under 222 and a hook. Next ball game, Pistons at the Jazz, 9 o'clock East. Utah's the 12-point favorite at home, totals 232. Now, Utah's in the top 3 in the league in scoring, and they're one of the better three-point shooting teams in the West. Malik Beasley's knocking home 41% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Lauri Markkanen's getting 22 points a night. Now, they're facing a Detroit squad who lost 8 out of their last 10. And they play some of the worst defense in the league. These guys are in the bottom 5 in guarding the field goal right now. They're also giving up 118 points per contest. Now, injury-wise, Bay, Cunningham, and Stewart are still out for Detroit. Meanwhile, for Utah, Bolmaro, Conley, and Gay are still out for them. When it comes to the total, Utah did go 7-3 to the over in their last 10 ball games. Meanwhile, Detroit went 70% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Utah minus 12 over 232. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Clippers at the Warriors, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Golden State's the 9.5-point favorite, totals 223. Now, the Warriors got the W in 5 out of their last 8, and they're having no issue shooting the basketball. They're in the top 10 in offensive field goal percentage, as well as shooting the 3-ball. They're also in the top 10 in shooting the 3-ball. Now, Steph Curry's making 44% of his shots from downtown. He's also the team's leading scorer with 32 points a night. And, of course, Andrew Wiggins, he's also shot very well from 3-land this year himself. He's 41% from beyond the arc. Now, they're facing a Clipper team who's going to work without Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Luke Kennard. And I'll tell you what, if that ain't bad enough, the Clippers were already dead last in the NBA in scoring with those guys mostly healthy. Now, total-wise, the Clippers went 70% to the under in their last 10. No real surprise there from the team dead last in the league in scoring. Meanwhile, Golden State saw 7 out of their last 10 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Golden State minus 9.5, under 223.